Stadium. Our final speaker today is a native New Orleanian and, of course, he anchors sports director at WDSU, Channel 6, graduate of Salle and Loyola, played baseball at both, and he's in his 12th year, imagine that, at Channel 6, and hosts Saints on 6 shows with former Saints coach Jim Mora. Has a regular blog, Offsides with Fletcher Mackel, which is always good to follow. He's good to follow on Twitter as well, because he's a good guy, and he cares about his community, and does a great job reporting on it. Please give a warm Quarterback Club welcome to Fletcher Mackel of WDSU.
Thanks for having me again. My yearly voyage. I think I was here with Coach Wilson last year, so maybe we're on the agenda for the same time. Lucky us. I enjoyed Coach's talk about what's wrong with the LHSAA. So I think what you're saying, Coach, is a small faction have kind of screwed it up for everybody. Is that right? Could I cue a Tea Party joke there? Is that okay? No? No? Oh. It's supposed to be my funny line there. Wow. Okay. No, again, my name is Fletcher Mackel. I am from New Orleans, and I do love all the sports teams here, LSU, Saints, Pelicans, Tulane. I'm very excited for the Tulane Green Wave because I really like Curtis Johnson. I was a fan when he got hired. I felt like Frank Wilson would have been a good hire, and Curtis Johnson. To me, Frank and Curtis are kind of cut from the same mold. I always joke that Frank to me is Curtis Johnson, just 10 years younger, tremendous recruiting coordinator at LSU. I remember when Curtis was at Miami and all the guys he got out of here, the Ed Reeds and the Reggie Waynes, and so I look at the players that he got starting a couple of years ago when he pulled Darian Monroe away from Texas A&M to come to Tulane, and you look at the kids he's getting. I remember a few years ago with Coach Toledo, unfortunately, it seemed like Tulane was beating out William and Mary in Richmond for players, and now they're beating out Kentucky and A&M, and those are the kids you need. And so I'm very glad that Tulane is doing well, and I think they'll be in the New Orleans Bowl. I know Brian is guarded with his optimism, but I think it could be the greatest New Orleans Bowl to date. I know it's only its 12th or 13th year, but last year with ULL they had 48,000 fans. If you add Tulane to it, I think you could have close to 60,000 fans in the Superdome for the New Orleans Bowl if what is expected to be ULL and Tulane do play each other. So I think that would be great. As far as your question about LSU, I think Texas A&M is going to win this weekend. I think that Johnny Manziel is a good player, and I understand it could be a shootout like the Georgia game, but there's just something about A&M. I think that they're going to play very well this weekend against LSU, and I think the Sugar Bowl is probably, you know, on their knees praying right now that A&M wins, because if A&M can finish 10-2 and win out, and Alabama's in the national championship game, I think the Sugar Bowl would love nothing more than to have Johnny Manziel and Texas A&M, which would be a bonanza for them as far as tickets and television ratings. No matter who A&M would play in the Sugar Bowl, even if they got stuck against the Central Florida or a Fresno State, it would still be a great game because A&M would travel big, and the interest in it because of Johnny Manziel's last college game more than likely would be tremendous. And I always say when I come here, I shouldn't say it anymore because I've said it for 3 straight years, but I'm one of these guys that really likes the NBA. I don't know if we have any Pelicans fans here, but I'm a huge Bobby. I know I see him at the games, and I'm a huge NBA person, and really like the Pelicans. And right now, though, it's hard to like the Pelicans because we had such great expectations, but the preseason of 7-1, I guess, turned out to be a little bit of fool's gold for everyone because it was just the preseason. And they have struggled a little bit. They did beat Philadelphia on Saturday night, but Philadelphia is a team that is certainly looking towards next season, and it is not a very good franchise right now, and they still almost gave up 100 points to them. So it'll be interesting to see what they do this season. I like the players the Pelicans have. I just don't necessarily know how they're all going to work together because there seems to be a lot of duplication. Again, I like Monty Williams. I hope he can get it done and win here, but the jury is still out. I always I joke about Sean Payton. Sean Payton gets a pass because he's had such tremendous success when he does something, I guess, a little off the reservation, like against the New York Jets when he does the end around to the third string tight end. Everybody kind of goes, well, it was a crazy play, but he's the guy that kicked the onside kick in the Super Bowl and it worked. More of his crazy plays have worked than not worked. So, we kind of give Sean a little bit of a pass. Monty, the Pelicans coach, I really like, but when you play a guy like Lance Moore in crunch time against the Pacers on opening night and then cut him 2 weeks later, and you're not winning, it kind of opens up the floodgates for criticism. So, in the social media world, the Pelicans have been trending poorly, let's just say. So, like the rest of the gentlemen here, if anybody has any questions about Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans. Oh, I guess I didn't touch on the Saints. Great win yesterday. I do think that was a terrible call on Brooks. I mean, I understand what football has become now. Protect the star players because really nobody wants to see backup quarterbacks play. So, Breeze and Brady and Peyton, protect the star players in a passing league. And obviously with all the injuries and the lawsuits and the long-term health of older players, any hits to the head, it's always going to result against the defensive player. But having grown up watching and covered football in the NFL for 12 years, I still am not quite sure how they threw a flag. I'm glad they did, because essentially would have lost that game had they not done it. But it was similar to the call 3 weeks ago against the Jets when Breeze took a shot to his midsection and they threw the flag on him. And they say, where does the defender hit him? If he hits him lower, it's in his legs. If he hits him higher, it's helmet to helmet. And we were joking about this today at Saints camp. I think sometimes it helps the Saints because Breeze is smaller. I mean, if that hit would have been on Peyton Manning yesterday, it would have been an arm across his chest. It probably wouldn't have been a flag. But Breeze, it's an arm closer to his neck. And somebody even jokingly said that because he's only about 6'1" instead of a 6'5" like Brady or a 6'5" or 6'6" like Peyton, maybe those calls have resulted more in the Saints' favor, which I don't necessarily disagree with. I think the Saints obviously will win this Thursday night, even on a short week, because Atlanta is depleted, and even if they get up for a rivalry game, I still don't think that they have the talent to compete with the Saints this season. I do think the Saints are going to have some issues in Seattle. I think it went a long way yesterday to show that they can beat a physical team, but that was still a tough game that came down to the final kick. Going to Seattle, I've been out there twice for the 2007 game and then the playoff game. It is a loud place and a tough place to play, and the weather's going to be miserable. And if everything Seattle does well are things the Saints have not necessarily excelled at this year, stopping the run and protecting Drew Brees. So I am concerned about that Seattle game, and I am concerned about Carolina, because Carolina does the same type of things as far as having a strong ground game and getting after the quarterback. So if you have any questions, I'll gladly try to answer them.
I have a question.
Okay.
Have you seen that hit that Breeze took yesterday, slow motion?
Oh, yeah.
Is he hurt at all today?
No, well, let me say this. The Saints didn't have any availability today because they have such a short week. Sean Payton was on conference call, and they gave the players off because they're going to come back to practice tomorrow. But after the game, he said he was fine. He was asked about it yesterday, and he said the only thing is because he didn't really see it. He said that at the very end, when he was asked about the play, he said out of the corner of his eye, he saw it kind of flinched a little bit, and he said he got hit across, the bottom, I guess, of his face mask, and he said that he thought, and he wasn't sure what hit him. He goes, I wasn't sure if it was a helmet or an arm or what hit me, but I thought since I got hit in the helmet, it should have been a penalty. But I know it's been the big debate on the sports centers and the sports shows today. And again, I think it's just what the NFL has become. I know that Brooks said that this isn't football anymore. It's watered down, but that's what it'll be. I mean, obviously, I remember, I'm 39 years old. I remember growing up, and they used to show the guys get their bell rung with the wobbly legs, and people made fun of it. Now nobody makes fun of it because you see the health ramifications, and things have changed with football. And I think the league wants to make sure that they have another crop of kids coming up. They don't want kids not to play football. You want kids to play football. So I think you have to show everything is about safety and health, and defenders will no longer get the benefit of the doubt. So, and I think everybody knows that calls like that are, while they're questionable and a defender goes, what am I supposed to do? Because I really don't see anything wrong with that. When they flag him, it's going to be hard to ever question it from now on.
Fletcher, I happened to notice on Saturday afternoon that you and your brother were patrolling the sidelines at Strawberry Stadium in Hammond to watch Southeastern versus Sam Houston State. Talk about your experiences in Hammond over the weekend, and talk about watching the play of Brian Bennett, the Oregon transfer, who has basically led the Lions to the NCAA FCS playoffs.
Yeah, we did go to Southeastern. It was the biggest game in program history, they said, and it was packed. It was a great atmosphere in Hammond. The only other time I'd been up to a game to cover a game in Hammond was in '03 when Southeastern brought their program back after dropping it, and the atmosphere at Strawberry Stadium was tremendous. Sam Houston State is one of those great FCS teams, and I know they played for a national championship or were in the semifinals. They beat Southeastern last year 70-0. So yeah, it's a great atmosphere, and Coach Roberts has done a really great job at Southeastern, and I'm excited to follow him the rest of the way. And having it goes to show, I think, what having one tremendous player can do for a program. And I know it's about team, and I know it's about a bunch of guys working together, but that was the first time I had a chance to watch Brian Bennett, who was at Oregon, who, played at Oregon and, almost beat out Marcus Mariota, and now he's at Southeastern, and he is a special player, especially for their conference and their league. You see what he's capable of doing. To me, he's a Division I quarterback, and not just a Division I quarterback. He was a guy who was capable of playing at a power program that is a national championship contender. And so, what he can do with his feet and throwing the ball, he was fun to watch. And I wouldn't be surprised if Southeastern makes a deep run in the playoffs again. Sam Houston State the last 2 years has been right there, and Southeastern beat them. There's no reason to me why Southeastern can't beat anyone in a playoff game moving forward in their league.
Hey Fletcher, I want to thank you and Travers for having different hairstyles, so now I can cut it all apart.
Yeah. I have a twin brother who works at the station too, and he's a news reporter. And
We don't have the same haircut, I can't do it.
Yeah,
But anyway.
he has let his hair grow significantly, so we no longer look that much alike.
Well, speaking about the Saints, and the biggest thing I've seen with Rob Ryan is the Saints have become a much better tackling team, and I'm just amazed at how they take the worst team in the history of football last year, and now they're coming back with just one guy making the difference. And I think that's just a great thing for Rob Ryan and the Saints that come here.
I think it's great. Scott Fujita comes in and does these specials that we do now with us, and he's going to be in Seattle with us in a couple of weeks. He played for Rob in Cleveland when he was there, and he said that he has a long relationship with Rob Ryan. He said that when he was coming out of Cal, Scott, he said that he met with the Patriots, and the Patriots told him, he goes, Rob Ryan was the linebackers coach at the time, and they told me they were going to draft me if I was available in the third round. And he goes, Kansas City drafted me before I had the opportunity to get to New England. And then he said before he came to join the Saints, following the 2005 season, Rob had just been hired as the defensive coordinator in Oakland, and Scott went to Cal, and he goes, I really thought about going back to the Bay Area, especially to play with Rob. And he just said, he goes, the great thing about Rob Ryan, and he goes, nothing against Steve Spagnuolo, because he's obviously a well-respected coach that has a lot of skins on the wall. I mean, he was defensive coordinator for a Super Bowl champion. He goes, you saw it go sideways early in the season, because he goes, Steve is more based on, it's the system. Believe in the system, play in the system, and we'll have success. And he goes, when everything, last year derailed with the Washington game and they followed up with Carolina, he goes, you saw players maybe not believing in it as much, and they never really got back on track. And then towards the end of the season, with Sean not here, it got catty with players calling out Spagnuolo in the paper anonymously. And he goes, Rob is the polar opposite. He goes, Rob is a guy that the players love playing for. And he goes, he wants all their input in what they think. And he goes, that was the one thing that I really liked about him that was unlike any other coach that he had played for, is he goes, he is as open as any coach, that he wants all the input of what do you think, what do you see, what is your take on what we should do. And he goes, that's why I think with Rob, you don't necessarily see a lot of traditional fronts and formations. You see players being utilized to their strength, which sounds simple, but some coaches do it well and others don't. And it's nothing against Steve Spagnuolo. I think Steve Spagnuolo probably would have done better, again, maybe with a younger team, that he could have molded a little better. But yeah, Rob has done a tremendous job, and the players just absolutely love him. And somebody asked me the other day, do I think Rob Ryan's a head coach? I would love to see Rob Ryan, because I think he's such a good guy, and he's not trying to be something that he's not. He's always open and he's always honest. But again, I don't know if if he'd be a great head coach. I know he's a really good coordinator, and I know the players love playing for him, and maybe he would be a great head coach. I definitely think if the Saints continue to have success and the defense continues to play well, he should be a guy that is interviewed for head coaching positions. I don't know if he'll get them, and I don't know if he'll have success, but I definitely think that he should be a name considered with what he's been able to do this season.
And then one last question is about the Pelicans. The big win Saturday night. Well, I say the big win, but the
Yeah,
big
be
factor.
careful with that one.
I know, the big factor I meant was getting Ryan Anderson back.
Yeah, here's the thing. Again, everybody makes a big deal of getting Ryan Anderson back, and I love Ryan Anderson. I think he's a really good player. But offensively, the Pelicans have not been bad. It's just defensively. I mean, they went on a road trip last week, gave up 100 points in every game. Philadelphia was playing without their, I don't want to say star rookie player, but a good rookie player, Michael Carter-Williams, and they still almost scored 100 points. And that's a team that is, completely in the tank looking towards next season. And so I still think that while Ryan Anderson getting him back was nice, and sure they scored 135 points, they still almost gave up 100. And I don't know if he's the magic elixir for what is ailing all their problems. They say they're a defensive team, but yet they can't stop anybody. And I still think Jason Smith is a warrior, and he's a great team guy, and he understands what Monty wants to do, and I love everything about Jason Smith, but I just think he should be a backup energy guy off the bench, not a starting center. And I think that, Jordan Hill last week had a career game, the Lakers center. The Utah Jazz, their two big men combined for 33 points and 22 rebounds. When they play teams with a better presence in the paint, they'll continue to get beat. So, again, I hope Monty puts the right pieces in place. I really do, because I like him. But again, the jury's still out. The soft part of their schedule is right now. They've got Utah on Wednesday, Cavs on Friday. So we'll see. They should win those games, but when they start to play some real teams, some real playoff contenders, we'll see how they do.
Yeah, Fletcher. Have you heard anything about your network moving any of the Saints games to prime time?
It's funny.
And secondly, since Brian Hughes is not here, his mother is here, you may want to say something about Mr. Brian Hughes.
That's true. I told the story about Brian. Brian Hughes was my college roommate, and I did tell the story. I have no good stories this time, Or Johnny. I've exasperated, like the St. Dominic's Men Clubs, St. Dominic's Men's Club, and here I have no more funny Hughes stories. Although I do love the Hugheses. But your question was, what was it about? Oh, with the TV. Yeah, everybody's expecting Saints-Panthers could be moved into prime time. The Saints-Panthers game here on December 8th. The game that NBC has that night is Green Bay-Atlanta, which they've already said they will not carry because of Atlanta being 2-8. The only problem is the other game that is under consideration right now is Philadelphia-Detroit. I think if Carolina wins tonight, NBC has to pick up Saints-Carolina. But from the network perspective, we had a call this morning with the guy from NBC, and you look at Philadelphia, it's a top 5 market. The NFC East is very close, which means if they put the Eagles on, from a TV perspective, they look at it and say, people in New York will want to watch, people in Dallas will want to watch, people in Washington will want to watch, and Philadelphia will want to watch. And then if they put the Lions on, because it's Philadelphia Lions, that's still a tight race. So people in Green Bay and people in Chicago will also watch. So you're talking about a lot of eyeballs watching that game nationally, whereas Saints Carolina means a lot to us, but from a TV network perspective, when you look at it, it's a very southern regional matchup that doesn't have a lot of national appeal. So, but I do think if Carolina can beat New England tonight, they'll have no choice because that truly would be the better game. But if Carolina loses tonight, that game may not be flexed. You may see Philadelphia and Detroit just because of the markets involved there.
Do you think that Jonathan Dillon and Will Smith, who decided the contract age and the way that the young players should run down the Saints?
No, I don't think Jonathan Vilma will ever play another down in the NFL. I mean, he went on IR this year. He was very candid at 32 years old, almost 33, I guess now, where he said, I'm going to give it one more go. But he goes, I look at these guys now, and he goes, I see some of these former players that they don't even have a life anymore. He goes, I don't want to be the guy in constant pain when I'm in my 50s and 60s. He's had 4 knee operations in 3 years. So he said he was going to give it one more go. And if he couldn't do it, he was content with the career that he had had. They still haven't officially said he's not going to come back. And again, he's a great player. And I'm a big John Vilma fan. I think he truly has meant as much to this team as Drew Brees. People can kind of shrug at that, but he was the leader of that defense and was a Pro Bowler the year they won the Super Bowl, and truly meant a lot in that locker room and to this team. And so maybe he gives it another go, but I would not be surprised just to see him move into TV like how Darren Sharper did. I think Vilma's a good TV guy, and I think he's just going to realize that his knee is not going to allow him to play. I mean, he played 12 snaps and then went on IR. I just don't know if he's ever going to play again. Will Smith, I would not be surprised if he's back at another reduced rate next year, just trying to have one more go at it again. He's been loyal to the Saints. The Saints have been loyal to him. They can certainly cut him again down to the veteran minimum and just say, look, I mean, he's another one. He's in his early 30s. That's the best deal he's going to get anywhere is, a defensive end outside linebacker in his 30s with, a serious injury. The best anybody's probably going to give him would be a one-year veteran minimum deal. I wouldn't be surprised if he just came back and made a comeback with the Saints. And if it works out, it works out. And if it doesn't, then he would also retire. But Vilma, I think definitely, in Will Smith, I think he's probably going to, he's rehabbing now at Dr. Andrews' facility, that Champion Sports Rehab, the one that they opened on the coast over in Florida. And so he's attempting a comeback. So I think he'll, in some way, shape, or form, try to come back, and the Saints will welcome him back just to see what he has left.
What's the status of Jabari Greer?
Oh, here's the funny thing. We don't know. I mean, obviously, everybody saw that injury. After the game yesterday, Sean Payton says we don't know. And then today in this conference call, he gives like zero information on injuries. It's almost become comical about how little, don't even ask about injuries anymore. On Wednesday, we can find out, did they practice or didn't they practice, and that is it. There is no, we always laugh now, is that if somebody asks about injuries, he turns and goes, next question. So there's no update. Now, I'm sure it will come out because of the world we live in now, whether through his agent or it will be leaked somewhere to someone and it will pop up on Twitter and we will all report it. But it has not yet. But obviously, I was following certain people yesterday and I saw one doctor said that it looked like it could be several ligaments the way, the injury happened. So obviously, I don't think Jabari Greer will play again this season, just looking at how horrific the injury was. Thanks.